Good morning, everyone. Hi, it's Barb Stuckey. I'm the Chief New Product Strategy Officer here at Mattson. And we're excited to be sharing some of our insights and learnings from Expo West this year. I am going to let you know a little bit about who's going to be presenting today. So I've got some colleagues here with myself, Pete Brennan and Katie Hagan, two of our relationship leaders, and they'll be coming on separately to talk you through what they learned since they were actually at the show this year and I was not. But I'm going to start with just a little bit of background on who we are and what we do. So hang on here. All right. So many of you know who we are at Mattson. We are a Silicon Valley-based food and beverage innovation firm. We, in 24, opened a second location in Chicago, which we're very excited about. And they are doing a kindred source of innovation that we do here at Mattson. We're a team of 65 employee owners with multidisciplined and lots of different experiences. Our team ranges from strategists and scientists to chefs and scale-up specialists. And everyone here is driven by a real passion for food. And then also driven by making a difference in the world of food in our community, much of that through the work that we do for our many clients. We make food happen. It's our tagline and it's what we do every day. We help our clients launch something new or to take what they're already selling and grow that business through new product innovation. We work across all technologies, channels, including food service and ingredients, and all categories, all temperature states, all technologies. The innovation work that we do, it could be disruptive or it could be incremental. And we know these days people are talking about renovation and getting their products ready for any changes that happen over the course of the next year. We do nothing but food and beverage, and we excel in that. We have a laser strong focus on it. And we work across strategy, development, and then all the way to commercialization. Our secret sauce is 700 years of collective food innovation experience. We have these two hubs of food innovation, Chicago and the San Francisco Bay Area. We have awesome facilities for consumer insights, product development, pilot trials, and our mantra is 5 principles for innovation success. We also, in 2024, launched our AI tools, which are the most exciting thing that we've been doing lately. We believe in RI plus AI, meaning real intelligence, the real intelligence of our team at Mattson, combined with the real intelligence of our clients' expertise, and bringing in AI as a partner to go better and faster. And we are known for end-to-end integration across insights, culinary, strategy, creative, and technical. These are some spaces in which we have been excelling in using AIs for insights, for example, whether it's consumer insights or whether it's retail buyer insights or food service operator insights. We also use AI for ideation. So we are doing ideations live with our clients. We're doing virtual ideations with our clients, and we're using it behind the scenes too. And we're using AI for optimizing both concepts, naming, and imagery. And behind the scenes, we're using Mattson formulation AI for the product development work that we're doing for our clients. We take clients from where they are today to launch. So wherever it is in the process, if you're interested in growth objectives, we can help across learning about your business to strategic and insights and ideation to product and menu development, and then commercialization and activation. So if you're interested in our AI, please reach out to contact@mattsonco.com or one of the three of us or your Mattson representative. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to Pete to start the webinar content. It's over to you, Pete.
Awesome. I'm all right. Thanks, Barb. And I hope everybody out there is doing well. And hopefully we've all recovered from Expo West 2025. And now we're just enjoying all the fruits of it. It was an amazing show this year, I think. And that's what you're going to hear a lot about. There was a lot of energy. And as we experienced it from our side, this was fun to be able to go and visit the booths. I've had the opportunity to actually be inside booths throughout my career, working with many of the brands, several of whom were actually at the show, having launched my own, having been a part of this entire bit of energy that's out there in years past, and now being able to go across, be able to try everybody's foods, beverages, and more to really experience what it is that's being offered. This year, I think, was really special. There were over 3,000 exhibitors. And I think one of the stats, and I'll hit on this even later in the show, is that around 1,000 of those exhibitors were new first-time Expo West exhibitors, which I think is important because there are certain moments where we start to see a new infusion of energy, positivity, new blood in our industry that's really helping to be able to push us along. So as we go through our 2025 trends and what we saw while we were out there, let's just hit on a few of the high points, I think, and key buckets. I think that's going to be on the next slide as we go through.
All right.
And so the 5 trends that we're going to key on will be the proteinization of everything. I know you all have heard about some of this, maybe a lot of it. We're going to nuance a few points, and I think there are some things that we really need to pay attention to as we start to see protein playing even more of a hero role than it has in years past. Functional beverage flood. There were more functional beverages on the floor this year, more than I tried, I think, than ever before. And there are new functions, new benefits that are being brought forward in each of these beverages that we're going to see not only just this year, but we're going to, I think, continue to see this flood as we start to move forward. Go with your gut. We've been talking about gut health, I think, especially since the pandemic and coming out of it. I suppose if you were to say there are any silver linings of that era, this would be one. I think that we're paying a lot more attention to the way in which our gut is impacting the rest of all of our function, our mind, body, experience, everything that emanates right here from the gut. And I've got plenty of it right now, especially after eating everything at the show. DIY dosing. This allows us to be able to start taking some of the supplementation of food into our own hands. And I think that what we saw was that we're seeing more brands coming to the forefront, looking to offer consumers the opportunity to consume more of the benefits that they are looking for in supplements in their foods. And at the same time, ways in which they can dose that to their own liking, to be able to address their own lifestyle, and also to be able to take some of their additional values into consideration. And then feminine affirmative. I will not be delivering this section of the presentation and trends, but I was really happy to see all the points that came forward here. We are starting to see and hear about points within our industry that I think have been neglected for way too many years and for all the wrong reasons. And we're starting to see things come forward that are addressing key needs, that are taking into consideration more than half of our population, and at the same time, starting to have a little fun with it. And I think delivering some great products within there. And so let's start in with the proteinization of everything. The proteinization of everything, you couldn't have missed it at Expo West. You couldn't have missed it even in many of the recaps that have happened before this one. It is everywhere. And I think a lot of that is because what we're starting to see is that more than half of consumers, snacking frequency rivals meal frequency, right? We've seen that continue to pop up over the past several years, whether that's due to the routinization of our lifestyles, the change in our work life behavior as it relates to hybrid work schedules or work at home schedules. And now the frequency of points of time that we're eating have increased above and beyond 5 within the day, right? So as we start to see that, that means that you got to start paying attention to more of the nutrient density and all of those mini meals, all the snacks that you're picking up. And we know that protein remains, it's not that this is a new macro, a new attribute that people are looking for, but it is just grown in importance as that mini mealification of our day part eating has increased. Nearly 50% of Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X, for slightly different reasons throughout the day, are prioritizing protein as a part of their diets, and especially when they're looking for snack foods and even their beverages, right? So, as we start to look at that and we started to see the way in which protein was presenting itself, I think one of the key things that we saw as we looked at really the bite-sized pieces of protein, that idea of taking snacks that often weren't including protein as a component of, and they were known to be carb laden, sometimes sugar heavy, and tied to high sodium. There were all sorts of messages and points that were coming through within them, and we saw that protein is displacing some of those negatives. And in fact, that's really important because I think here within Mighty Bites of Protein, that I'm calling it, we're starting to see protein as a heavy messaging point, and we're not hearing as much about carbs. We'll see lower sugar content. That is key, and we're going to talk about that as we get into functional beverages. But we weren't talking about less carbs. We weren't talking about less or fewer calories, right? And if we were back in the early 2000s, those are definitely points that we would have seen married up with the messaging points around protein. Protein has become hero, amount of protein, source of protein. Those are things that consumers are looking for, and those were clearly being communicated across points within the categories and within the products that we saw at the show. Putting protein on the radar, even I would say ingredients and or products that have always included protein that traditionally do, just inherent to the ingredient, we're coming forward with much more pronounced labeling and communication on pack. It's come way higher up in the hierarchy. And so you're starting to see something like Bob's Red Mill with their protein oats, right? Where that becomes front and center, being able to talk about the oats and the whole grained rolled oats that are from a conventionally bred variety that is specially sourced to be able to provide more protein in every single bite. And then there's clearly a way. If I think there was one bit of buzz that went beyond just the fact that there was protein everywhere, it was the fact that we started to see Clear Whey really make an impact and start to show itself in beverages and in products across the floor. There were a few standouts, but I will tell you this, that when you're working with Clear Whey, and as it is on the earlier side of this curve, we know that here at Mattson, it is really hard to work with and to be able to deliver on what's important across the board with all of these products and anything that we deliver within food and beverage. And that is the hedonics. That's making sure that we're delivering on the mouthfeel, making sure that we're delivering on the flavor and taste attributes that are important for people, not only to want to try it and appreciate the foods that we're offering, but to be able to come back, right? It's that second purchase, those repeat purchases that are going to drive velocity, the repeat purchases that are going to drive success for any of these brands and products in market. So as we start to see Clear Whey show itself in waters, in beverages and things like that, just watch for, and I would say this is true across proteins in general, mouthfeel, stringency, just the overall delivery of protein, making sure that it is an overall balanced experience. We've been watching this across all of the categories here as something that we think is not only just important for the food experience, but also because we launched a longitudinal study back in December of 2023 that was focused on GLP-1s. All of this that we're talking about now it's not just the rise of GLP-1s and their importance within diets today, and how it's affecting our eating habits and how it's affecting ultimately everything that is driving our motivation around, or not all of us, but those who are using GLP-1s. But in addition to that, we're starting to see this rise of protein and the importance of it just because of lifestyles and continuing to drive forward. So, a few examples of where we start to see protein showing up and where we think we'll continue to. It's everything from drum roll donuts, where we're talking about 10 grams of protein, and again, married up with 1 gram of sugar, right? And so you start to see that messaging of protein and then also the low sugar content coming through. Honey Mama's Protein Crunch Bar. I had the opportunity to be able to sit on a panel and listen to Christy tell the story of Honey Mama's and everything that came to be. We're able to deliver protein both with plant-based ingredients and also with whole foods and better for you experience showing up in the refrigerated set. One that I think was talked about a lot at the show that we saw was Sturdy and showing up with 80 grams of protein per jar. So, in years past, we've been discussing the addition of protein, the addition of positive ingredients within the pastas or within the carbs and the starches that sauces are oftentimes on top of and being used. Now we can even find protein in the sauces that we're using. Another key point that we saw showing up throughout the show was eggs. There's a lot of chatter about eggs for all the reasons we know that are out there. We're waiting for the price of eggs to come down. I'm sure everybody that launched products with eggs in them are waiting for the cost of eggs to come back down. But we know that eggs are a excellent, as pointed out, source of protein and the ability for them to impact foods in a really nice way, whether it's as a structural component in the way that it's being formulated, as an ability to be a great binder, but also as an attribute that a number of consumers see as a really clean form of protein and beyond. So a lot of great sources of protein across everything. You're going to see that continue to grow, I think, as we continue to watch the rise of GLP-1s and as we see the rise of the snackification and the need for protein to continue to show up in all of our mini meals and points that we're eating across the day. And so if you're eating and taking on a whole bunch of protein and that's supposed to fuel you so that you can continue to be active throughout the day, there are all of these other attributes and benefits that we're looking for. And there was a beverage for every single one of those benefits that you might be searching out. And that is why we're calling this a functional beverage flood. There were more functional beverages than I think I ever remember seeing at the show. They were offering everything from hydration to brain health, focus, calm, balance, gut health, which we'll talk more about in specificity, skin health, immunity, and satiety, right? And so this is where we started to see protein emerging. We started to see 1-2 punches of points around hydration and different mind positive and mental acuity type benefits being offered. And again, many of these, almost most of them now, were being offered with low sugar content and also with better, and I would say higher integrity sources of sugar if they were being used. Um, there are a couple different points to be able to watch out for here, I think, as we started to see the use of our high intensity sweeteners and also some of the different functional active packs, right, including botanicals and different adaptogens and nootropics, is that again you're fighting that battle of delivering on the promise of the functional beverage and what it's there to provide as the functional benefit, but also with the flavor and the experience that you want in a refreshing beverage. Anything that you're going to consume and drink, you want it to be something that's really palatable and enjoyable. And I think that is where this continued battle was faced on the floor for me. So we saw a flood of new launches. Many of the new brands that I spoke about as 1,000 new brands that showed up as exhibitors for the first time at Expo West. I would say many of them were here in the beverage set, launching RTDs. Some of them, many looking at the launch of their formula in stick packs or in sachets or in powdered, gusseted pouches. I think all interesting formats. There were some that I would say were launched as concept and they tasted like concepts. It's something that we really focus on here at Mattson as helping to avoid. I think that that's something that really needs to be taken into consideration as we're delivering on some of these new benefits and delivering on some of these new offerings, making sure that the proposition is whole, right? Not only in terms of what it can do for you and providing whether it's energy or focus or any of those points around the idea of immunity, but it needs to not taste like a vitamin pack. And we need to really watch it with the high intensity sweeteners that tail when we start to experience it with stevia or monk fruit or any of the others can be heavy. And that's not something that's leaving a great taste in your mouth that's positive. On the flip of that, we started to see things like organic cane sugar being used in smaller amounts and still being there to be able to help drive both, I think, the perception, which we know is more positive, less processed, and at the same time was something that helped a lot of these products come through with an overall better experience, in my view. Lower amounts of it being used, but at the same time, I think a good use of it. And so some of the different products that we saw within the space, and which were interesting, whether it was Recoup that won the Pitch Slam at the show, congratulations, or Gorgie, and in addition to that, Atomico, which was offering up 20 grams of whey protein and then natural caffeine. You looked at the relaunch of Slice coming on the tail of all of the new wave of sodas that are coming out, better for you soda, and the entire experience there. I would say, Slice was one of them. I thought it was nicely balanced and there was a good mix, high fiber content at 5 grams to support your gut health. But in addition to that, there were just some classic flavors that I know and love. Local weather, right? Last couple years, I've seen them. They actually made my favorite of the show a couple years back. I'm really happy to see that they're growing, building with not only just innovative new packaging formats or, in one of the first to launch, if not the first, I think, within the sports performance beverage category, but focusing on both mind and body in the way in which they're delivering hydration. I think we started to see that show across more categories, more products this year, but I think doing it in a very solid way. Weird Yerba, Yerba Mate showing up as one of those caffeine sources as a mean of being able to deliver energy and at the same time being able to do so with some fun. So good group over there, enjoyed visiting their booth and enjoyed trying their product. And then with a number of other, whether it was Fresh Fizz Soda, Super Root, or even Love, bringing a new take, I would say more nuanced on the idea of bringing electrolytes forward with sodium, potassium, magnesium for clean, balanced hydration, but taking on more of that, I would say there was a little bit more of a saltier finish there. And so interesting as it's coming through. So a real mix as we started to look at all the functional beverages coming across and on the floor. My major watch out for all the brands as going forward would just be that balance and being able to keep it in mind. It is a really fun space to be able to work in. Driving trial, important. The most important though thing with beverage, as much as it is with food, because it is so fast moving, pulling out of the cold box and on, is that you have to get that repeat purchase. You've got to make this something that people are going to come back for and want more of. And that's where we really need to dial in flavor, taste, and the balance. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Katie. And Katie is almost
you're on
up.
mute.
There we go.
I'm back. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Pete. So the next trend that we wanted to highlight is go with your gut. And you're saying, hey, that is not new. We agree. It is not new, but it is also not slowing down. So, gut health has moved beyond simply good digestion for the sake of having a healthy GI tract to much more of a cornerstone of your overall wellness. There's a growing body of scientific evidence that is piling up that suggests that not only is it about gut health for gut's sake, but also your immunity, also your mental health, and even your metabolic function. So, this gut brain axis is something that's driving our behavior and how we think about food in terms of food as medicine, and it's driving Expo West to be really pushing prebiotics, postbiotics, um, and all of these functional benefits, fiber, into products. So this is a going and growing trend that we do not see slowing down. Um, there's what we saw in the show would be everything from fermented foods, so those that are truly naturally present probiotic from the nature of the food. We saw a lot of those kinds of offerings, as well as protein snacks that would be rich in fiber and other nutrients, adding those probiotics or prebiotic fiber to snacks, and we'll see these in a couple of slides. So there was a lot of energy at the show to bring this benefit to a whole range of products. There were classic products, the dairy products, the yogurt products, kombuchas, but also we're seeing a lot of these nutrients and benefits being touted across snacking, beverage, and the like. Beverage was particularly strong. The better for you soda space is on fire. The acquisition of Poppy by Pepsi for $2 billion definitely created a stir. And there were many others like that out there, as Pete highlighted. A huge flood of functional beverages out there, some more delicious than others, but the opportunity is definitely happening. We saw a lot of that at the show. So on the next slide, I would be happy to share a few of these examples with you. So we covered some of those beverages, but other examples are items like Simply Pop. So that's adding prebiotic fiber, vitamins, and minerals to a bubbly, fruity drink. Others are using coconut in a few interesting ways. So coconut kefir in the lower left is probiotic rich. It's dairy free as a coconut base. And naturally present probiotics, similar to coconut cult, which you may have tried on in previous shows. Just a tablespoon a day will do it. And then others like Inner Eco with the probiotic coconut water. So another way to leverage coconut. It's a water kefir, so drinkable beverage. I thought what was interesting too is we're seeing a shift into condiments. So wild brine has a probiotic spicy kimchi sriracha, absolutely delicious, gut-friendly condiments, as well as Biora has a kombucha salad dressing. So bringing that probiotic benefit to the condiment aisle, where you can then layer onto your salad full of fiber a probiotic salad dressing, or layer onto your bean-rich burrito an amazing spicy sauce. And then we also saw snacking. So for example, the rice rollers in the lower right-hand corner, which was always a crunchy, low-cal, fairly healthy treat, they've now added prebiotic fiber with brown rice and probiotics, so that now you have probiotics and prebiotics entering into the snack space as well. And then one I love is the new Pickle Party product line, which is naturally present probiotics from fermentation entering into the space and really pushing, I'm not just a delicious pickle, but this gut-friendly probiotic health benefit. And then in the center, you'll see Everyday's Reset Kombucha, where you're able to take that kombucha benefit, with probiotics and do it yourself at home. And we'll talk a little bit about that DIY dosing in a slide or two. But the net of it is it's happening across so many different categories now. This pushing of the benefit, providing those probiotics, providing the fiber. As we know, 95% of Americans are not eating enough fiber. So I've been predicting this for a while, that it was going to come and have its day in the sun. And perhaps it's finally here. And another stat I saw recently was functional food and beverage globally is expected to almost double between now and 2028. They're expecting it to be $500 billion. So this space with gut health is going to be definitely benefiting from that growth. The next trend we're calling DIY dosing. So this trend, also not new, but really evolving. So it's about taking control and customizing what you're eating and drinking to address your personal needs. It's not new, but it is really growing. And there's a couple of big macro trends that are driving it, from the sidelines. One is food is medicine. So this idea of being able to proactively address your health to prolong the need for any kind of actual medicine by simply eating well and taking care of your body through what you're consuming, as well as personalization, which is also something that has been evolving over the last decade, probably. Being able to really customize your fill in the blank, your vitamins, your exercise regimen. I mean, it's a macro trend. And so these are coming to bear on this space, as well as really driven by Gen Z, but this interest in and pursuit of social media wellness gurus first for health advice. Before you go to your doctor, I'm going to see what my wellness guru says. I'm going to see what Google says, and trying to take care of yourself first before going to a professional. And then on the other end of the age spectrum, boomers and Gen Xers are also trying to stave off the inevitable with supplements, superfoods, in the hopes of expanding not just their lifespan, but their active health span. And we've covered this idea in some of our other trends, but the idea of a health span is to say, I don't just want to live to be 85. I want to be alive and active and having this terrific life all the way till age 85. I don't want to be feeling ill and on medications for the last 10 years of my life. So how do I live better and take care of my body better so that I'm living a health span versus just a lifespan? And so all of these are coming to bear on this interest in taking control and customizing what you're doing for yourself. And then coupled with that is the evolution of supplements beyond pills. So innovative formats like stick packs, sachets, drops, digitally integrated regimens, whether it's diet, supplement, et cetera, which can be designed for you and give you these on-the-go formats so that it's portable, right? You're able to just drop whatever you need into your bag and head out the door. And so those kinds of formats really extend well into drinks in particular, but also boosts and gummies and shots. It's essentially a nutrient fill in the blank, and you can get protein or electrolytes or probiotics, adaptogens, mushrooms, caffeine. All these things are something you can then dose into your water bottle or dose onto your oatmeal, or dose on top of whatever you might be consuming to give yourself an extra quick fix of that nutrient that you're trying to backfill in your daily regimen. So lots of products here on the next slide that we can share. So congratulations to Waterboy, upper left corner. They got third place, I believe, in Albertson's Launchpad competition, and have really upped the game when it comes to designing a product that is customized hydration. So they have SKUs for daily support, but then they also have SKUs for post-workout, and they have SKUs for hangover cure. They've really thought through what are the nutrients that I need for a specific moment in my day or weekend or whatever it might be, and they're delicious as well. We saw lots of stick packs out there, but we also saw mushroom gummies, for example, from So delivering that adaptogenic boost to de-stress. Saw those out there as well as other gummy options. Interestingly, we saw this interesting thing going on with beef. So Prime Protein, we're front and center there in the center, is actually a beef protein isolate, which we're not sure we've seen before. And it kind of coincides with the overall push into collagen, the overall push into bone broth. We're like, what's going on with beef? It's nice to see them kind of fighting back and staying in the mix. So go beef. And then other things, collagen. Whew, collagen's all over the place. We heard about it in beverage, but we are also seeing it in things like jelly sticks. Every day's jelly stick with collagen, delicious, kind of like an adult fruit leather, if you ask me. I really liked it. And of course in gummies and some of these other formats, as well as drops. There were a number of drops. These are Barlean's mood drops, but we did see a number of other product lines that were using that format to just tincture a little extra, fill in the blank, adaptogen or what it might be that you need to boost your day. And then this is our last trend for today. We're calling it feminine affirmative. And Pete did not get to present this one, but I'm happy to do so. I did a little research on this. One, it was very clear from the show. This was a really alive and interesting push into this product line and into this conversation. But just looking backwards, fun fact, before 1993, women were rarely included in medical clinical trials. They just weren't included. And so as a result, the medical field actually doesn't know how a lot of drugs and devices work for women. The assumption is just that it's the same as men. So in sometime in the 90s, Congress changed how this was going to be executed. And so today, women are now in 40% of clinical trials. We are 51% of the population, so we're making progress, but we're not all the way there yet. But it's really fascinating, and it's about time. Another great data point came from McKinsey, which was talking about, hey, the investment in addressing women's health gap, it could add, for women's sake, years to their life to their years. This is tapping back into that health span idea. And it could potentially boost the global economy by $1 trillion annually by 2040. So what I was excited to see at the show was some of that investment really materializing in some of the products we were seeing. We're all about food and beverage. We saw it across skincare, supplements, food, beverage, and we'll show you some of those in a moment. But it was just gratifying to see the conversation, to see it substantiated scientifically. Very, conversations with candor and humor. It was great. We were talking about fertility. We're talking about hormonal imbalance, menopause, sexual wellness, sleep support, and overall nutritional needs, not as just for women, but women at different ages and in different stages of their life. So it's not just a blanket of female products. It's really customized as well. And then I don't want to leave out the other half. We also really loved seeing a couple of very humorous male-focused brands, Dude Wipes and Happy Nuts, and happy to see their mission to keep everybody healthy and happy in those nether regions too. So these are some of the products that we wanted to highlight that just demonstrate what's going on out there. In the upper left corner, you'll see a bar called Ovu. This is actually from a Mattson food scientist. So happy to see her doing great things for women out there. So this is a bar that designed with nutrition should someone want to become pregnant, something that supports that healthy body for that kind of change in life. Others include Tea Botanics below that with a whole range of cleverly named teas, brain fog tea, hot flash tea, night sweat tea, which gave me a chuckle, but also sounds like true relief. Again, we were seeing different formats here as well. So drops, sachets, food, teas, supplements, and the like, which is a continuation of the other DIY dosing trend that we also highlighted. O Positive had a huge booth and had OBGYN formulated products to support women all along their life journey. So whether it's pregnancy, there was a Prego product, a Flow product, Meno product, Euro products, all very friendly and open and scientifically backed packaging and formulations, which was great to see. We also saw sexual wellness products. So, for example, Foria is another one, which is also terrific to see. We know that men's sexual health has been front and center. Every ad on every radio ad I've ever heard every single morning driving to work, I think, is covering men's sexual health. And here we go. So right there's a little blue pill. Well, there's other things for women as well.
With all of this, right, as we start to really wrap it up into not just the 5 key trends that we saw, I think it's really important that we look at the big picture and everything that we saw happening, right? So a few of the points related to products and the categories that we called out, with complex functional products designed to deliver protein-rich, gut-friendly, mood-enhancing, age-defying solutions that are tailored to pretty much every emerging consumer audience out there, paired with quickly evolving policies and regulations that were talked about, and I think were ripples and things that we are now experiencing on an ever evolving basis. They can reshape product nutrition, ingredient requirements across existing products, in addition to any of those that are being imagined for something new. And I think that it's more important than ever that we truly take the quality of our formulation, the quality of commercialization, overall quality of product, and the proposition that we're asking and offering into consideration, right? Really key. That would be the main takeaway from the floor. But I think the big picture takeaway that we can draw from this was with the 3,000 plus exhibitors, that were a third first time exhibitors. That is fantastic to see. I was at the Expo West Business School all day Tuesday. I think one of the key points and callouts there, I was blown away by an initial raise of hands as to who has been to Expo West for 1 year. And it was 90%, I would say, of the audience that was there, hundreds of new entrepreneurs, new leaders within our industry that are starting to build up their set of knowledge and experience, understanding. And there were far, far fewer. There were a handful of us that have been there for 15 plus years coming to the show. I think that was good to see. I love seeing everybody. It's a big reunion. It's a great opportunity for all of us to reconnect. But it was fantastic to see so many new people, new personalities, and new folks that are bringing all sorts of newness to the categories that we saw. There were 64,000 plus in attendance, I've seen and read. Estimates vary, right? There was some discussion over cost, but I think that when you start to see that many people showing up for this show, it just speaks to the importance of it and how it continues to be, I think, that one point within our industry where we all have to take a break, get out there and really see everything that's coming. Not to mention to really experience all the discussions that are having. I look for 2 main points when I think about the health of our industry and overall, if I think that the experience is going to be a positive one that's going to be talked about moving forward. And that would be, did the brands that were there really gain access to retailers? And did they have the opportunity for those conversations to happen? In addition to, did they have the opportunity to be able to connect with the capital community? And I think what we saw at this show was that retailers were out in force. Hats off to everyone. I'm going to call out Whole Foods specifically because I saw you everywhere. And I think that was evidenced even in some of the conversations that I was having with a number of the founders and folks that are leading up the brands in the booths, talking to me about different meetings that they had that was scheduled with you, different ways in which it was coming to be. Hats off to Albertsons and Kroger and Sprouts and others that were leading up multiple large meeting rooms, Target, for having come to the show and wanting to be able to engage both in providing a platform, whether it was the Albertsons Launchpad event, or if it was simply just making sure that you were meeting, grabbing coffee, grabbing dinner, doing something more than just stopping by and trying a sample. There seemed to be much richer engagement than I think I've seen in many years past. That may be a component of the shift in format from opening up the floor to all exhibit halls on day one and running that through to the end on Friday. But I think it worked really well. And I want to just say again, a big thank you to all the retailers that really made the time to be able to meet with the brands, because this is how you get on the shelves and get in front of the consumers that we all talk about, needing these new benefits, these new products, and all the things that everybody's bringing to the floor. And it's not possible unless they have the capital to be able to do that. Capital investment teams, I'll call it, angels, private equity, and venture specifically, were locked in and they were looking for deals. Several friends of mine that I wanted to grab coffee with, and they were locked in rooms. We grabbed maybe a few minutes where they were tucked away trying to make some things happen at the show. Deals that have been in the works for months, that were coming to a head and that they had hoped to close or make a lot of progress while there. I saw more individuals that were looking for what was next, positive investments that are starting to show fruit. And we talked about some of the deals up front, right, related to investments within new wave beverages and sodas, to even better for you healthy snacks. And what we're starting to see would be M&A coming back into the mix. And I think just really, again, during some turbulent times otherwise, in some ways, a lot of positive messaging and a lot of good meetings that were occurring, similar to with retailers, but with the capital community. So with that, I just want to say, I think there's a lot of good stuff ahead. Let's continue to keep the positive momentum going from what was Expo West 2025 throughout the rest of 2025. And we hope to see you soon. If you have any questions or if you'd like to follow up and learn more, please reach out. We'd be glad to talk with you.
Yeah, and I have a couple of questions for you guys that came in. So I'll start with you, Pete, since you're not on mute. You talked a lot about the proteinization that's happening across categories, and I'm curious from your perspective what some of the watch-outs are. And then I have another question for you, which was prompted by that sturdy sauce that has 80 grams of protein in it. My question is, how do they compete on shelf with 80 grams of protein, knowing, and we know this at Mattson very well, that adding protein to your product is really going to increase the price? So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on protein.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go a little bit on the, well, let's talk about protein and including it just there first. So I think the watchouts would be similar to what I called out in functional beverage specifically, which is that as you add in protein, depending on the source, thinking about that, whether it's plant-based, animal-based, a dairy derivative-based protein, the protein pack that you're using, the protein source that you're using, needs to be worked in balance, just like any other ingredient. But it's harder to do in some cases to be able to get a clean flavor and taste and mouthfeel, not to experience some of the chalkiness, or depending on if it's in a food or a beverage or more of a liquid base, getting a really different texture than you might want. There is an astringency that can be delivered by some proteins. With some plant proteins, there can be a number of off notes that often are important to mask. And It doesn't mean additives that are going to be in necessarily running in conflict with your brand values or your overall clean label proposition. Just means that you got to do a nice job, just like my grandma did when she was making, sauces or lasagna or anything that was coming through. It was just finding that right mix so that it was savory and beautiful and delicious. The same thing is true for your beverage or your chip or your puff or anything you might be delivering, is find a way to be able to deliver the nutritional value the protein brings, but also with the flavor and the expectation that the category is queued up and that the consumer is looking for there, right? It is all about enjoying the food that we love and then being able to love the food that we love to eat. And that's, I think, where protein can win. But the watch out is doing it there with, with care. The price point question, every source of protein brings a slightly different dynamic as we start to look at not just the composition of our products in the context of the recipe and how it can deliver on the flavor and the product experience that the consumer appreciates, but we have to be able to make money doing it to be able to run a successful business. It has to be profitable. It means you have to be able to price to the category, price to the competition, price to the experience that consumers are looking to be able to take away. And so there, I think it's, understand the dynamics of what it takes when you're including an animal-based protein versus a plant-based protein, the cost of goods as it relates, the way in which you have to process it. So all of those components of being able to include the different sources of protein or the amount of protein that's being used should be considered, and just make sure that you're factoring that in as you start to look at the category that you're competing in, so that you're able to hit a price point that's going to make you competitive, and ultimately deliver on what the consumer is looking for.
Thanks. Okay. Katie, I have one for you too. You and Pete both talked so much about beverages, and you were talking about ready to drink. You're talking about stick packs and the DIY dosing trend. And I'm curious, first of all, about DIY dosing when things are coming in stick packs. Are the brands that are doing that, are they talking about sustainability? Is that one of the reasons, one of the benefits or reasons to believe that this thing is good for you? So I would ask that, and maybe if you contrast ready to drink versus, stick packs, just what is there a sustainability angle there, and what are the benefits and drawbacks?
Yeah. There is a sustainability benefit to a dry powder over a heavy liquid RTD. I would say that, there's pros and cons to both approaches. If you think about RTDs, the great benefit of an RTD is hopefully you're in that cold case at the store and you capture that impulse purchase, that purchase with a sandwich that, hey, I'm just looking for a little fill in the blank nutrient to keep me going, as well as the portability aspect of an RTD, right? It's ready to go. Pop the cap and there you go. That is a huge upside, revenue upside potential of going down that path. That said, designing an RTD, developing it, formulating it so that it, everything is synchronized beautifully and something that actually tastes good, per Pete's comments earlier. But also RTDs have higher MOQs typically to get produced. And then there's also the fact that you're shipping water, right? So heavy and less sustainable. So the flip side is there is a triple bottom line benefit to producing a powder in a sachet. You can get it created more quickly, more cheaply. You're not shipping water. And you can get to market faster as a result. It's really well designed for e-commerce play, right? Your shipping cost to your consumer will be considerably less. But you do need to, you've lost some of that portability and instant impulse purchase. There needs to be a water bottle somewhere, or there needs to be a blender somewhere to put that beverage together for the end user. So pros and cons, but depending on your vision and your resources, that choice will hopefully be clear.
Great. Well, thank you everybody who attended this webinar. And yes, you will have an option to download the slides. We'd like to thank you for attending if you did attend. And then the other thing I would say is, we are here to help you in your innovation efforts. So feel free to reach out to us. And we will see you online or in person soon. Thanks, Pete and Katie, for not only going to Expo and doing the hard work of pulling all of this together, but really making sense of it for our listeners. So thanks, everybody.